Asian Americans are the most educated, most likely to be hired, yet the least likely to be promoted to managerial positions. How do you explain this discrimination against Asian Americans to people of other races? Why are there so few Asian Americans in leadership positions in the US? And can we do anything about it?
Tim, that's a good question. First, let me say that it is not only about management positions. What we're talking about has to do with all leadership positions across the board. I wonder if you know that while Asian Americans are the fastest growing minority group in this country today, but we are the least represented in elected office of any racial group. Least represented. And National EEOC, or Equal Employment Opportunity Commission data show quite clearly that Asian American white-collar professionals, and that's all over, are the least likely to be promoted into management. For example, a McKinsey report from 2022 found that Asian Americans are 9% of management in major corporations, but only 5% make it up to the C-suite. For Asian American women, it's only 1%. These are terrible numbers. And by the way, this is compared to all racial groups, less likely than blacks and Hispanics. So, what can we do about it? I think that we need to do what exactly GCC is doing. You are taping this conversation. You are going to put it on social media. You're going to try to reach as large an audience as you can. I applaud you for doing that because that's the way to go.
Do you think the general public is currently aware of this discrimination against Asian Americans?
You're getting to why, and that's good. I do not think so. Generally, Asian Americans are seen as, what would we call it? Doers, technicians, worker bees, brainiac nerds, but not as leaders. As a result, advancement slows as Asian Americans move up the ladder. And high levels of representation at the entry level do not translate to high levels in senior management. The share of Asian Americans actually decreases with greater seniority. And so does their share of promotions, particularly, as I've mentioned, for Asian American women. Cultural stereotypes of Asian Americans can be at odds with Western ideas of leadership. Asian values emphasize humility, deference to hierarchy, not making any waves. Western styles of leadership instead highlight or prioritize assertiveness, high visions, and charisma. Totally at odds. I was fortunate in having mentors when I was younger who told me, Julia, speak up, raise your hand, lean in, And believe me, I had to work at it. It did not come naturally to me. Because my Chinese culture, traditional Chinese culture, told me as a girl, a woman, be quiet. Don't talk too much. I mean, it's just contradictory advice. In addition, the perpetual foreigner syndrome or stereotype is another factor. Asian Americans throughout history have been cast as outsiders and foreigners in American society. I don't know how many times I've been asked, and you, Tim, you've been asked, but you are a Chinese from China. I'm a Chinese American. Okay? They say, where are you from? Or, how do you speak such good English? And then when they find out I'm an ambassador, they say, oh, you're an ambassador. From what country? And when I tell them from America, most of them cannot accept that. They look at this face, they don't see an American ambassador. Also, the Asian or the minority, model minority myth hurts Asian Americans by holding us up as successes, often then forgetting about us and leaving us out of discrimination seminars or anti-discrimination seminars or programs and discussions about how to overcome that discrimination and to be able to rise up in the workplace and work environment. So the surge in anti-Asian hate today is rooted in the general American perception of Asian Americans as model minority and as perpetual foreigners, going back to the Chinese Exclusion Act laws of 1882, which essentially banned Chinese immigrants until the exclusion laws were repealed in 1945. Or I think maybe it was during World War II, in any case, when China was an ally of the United States during World War II. But, to be honest, that repeal was, I would call it a farce, because instead of banning all Chinese immigrants, it imposed a quota, annual quota. Can you guess how many? It was 105. Does that surprise you? Well, you didn't know. I'm sure the American public didn't know. Okay, so what do we do about it? I think awareness is the first step towards addressing this problem. I don't think, really, as I said, that many Americans know there is this Asian American leadership gap. We need to help our decision makers understand so existing diversity and inclusion programs can address the problem. And given cultural stereotyping, we also need to change the way our decision makers look at leadership and to understand that fostering diverse and inclusive leadership is actually good for them because it will be more representative of their constituencies.